Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Kellie Driscoll, who's the NexTrex Development Representative at Trex, and her counterpart, Stephanie Hicks, Materials and Recycling Programs Manager at Trex as well. And Trex is all about, I know them as all about decks and making recycled material into products that we can use for construction and other things as well. So we're going to dive into a little bit on their recycling program and how they're working with the warehousing industry too to take some of that waste and convert it into some of those construction materials. So very interested to dive into this topic today. I think it's a very interesting thing to discuss and something that should be top of mind for a lot of warehouse operators as well. So Kellie and Stephanie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, great. Thank
How are
you.
you? Thank you.
Good. Doing well. Very excited to talk about this one today. I think that also, it's funny, I was thinking about this one. I think my father will be excited for this too. He's a big Trex fan. He's got Trex on his porch and stuff like that. So I think he'll enjoy this one. But why don't you kind of give us, I mean, I gave my little overview of what I know about you guys and your materials, but why don't you give us a little overview of Trex for people that maybe are not familiar?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for having us today. Trex decking is we manufacture composite deck boards. We've been in the industry for over 30 years, and we have different ways of how we collect our film. But for this purpose, is talking specifically about polyethylene film and recycling. So we take the recycled film and reclaim sawdust, and that creates the core of our board, our Trex board, and then it basically binds together, and we have a shell that wraps around the material, and as you can see, it's right here. So this is
Nice.
the core of the board mixed with the polyethylene film and reclaimed sawdust, and then this is the shell. So we have two plants in Winchester, Virginia. That's where our global headquarters is, and then we have a second plant in Fernley, Nevada, that services the West Coast. And we're in the process of building our third plant in Little Rock, Arkansas. So our demand's high, we're growing. So what that means is we need more recycled film. We need more product to make our boards.
Very nice. And I think, demand increasing, I think is certainly warranted. I mean, the product itself is last for a very long time. I mean, it's very sturdy and it's pretty incredible how you've been able to take kind of essentially what in the past maybe would be waste and turn it into something that's incredibly durable and can last a long time. And I guess in a sense doesn't necessarily need to be recycled again if you're using it and letting it last its lifetime. So I guess we're here. This is a warehouse podcast, right? We're not talking construction, even though we're talking about some materials that might be used in construction. And I think maybe a good way to start the conversation about how you're involved with the warehousing industry is as we're recording this, I was at the work conference last week, Warehouse Education and Research Council, and I saw that Trex actually had a presence there, a table there. And I'm curious, why is that?
Yeah, so the reason for that is because our bread and butter when it comes to getting polyethylene film is working with distribution centers and warehouses.
Mm.
So we're there to let warehousing operations know there are outlets, sustainability outlets that you can use for your pallet wrap, stretch film, bale it, and be able to get it to Trex and hopefully make a little money and reduce your waste as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great thing. And it's great to hear too that that's like one of the biggest sources for you and partners, because I think as we look at the supply chain as a whole, sustainability is certainly a big topic nowadays, and rightfully so. I mean, it's very important for environment and the world and our future world too as well. So I'm curious, I mean, how does kind of that program work? Because I know that certainly from my warehouse experience, there is a lot of plastic waste that comes from plastic film and, all the different stretch wrap that's used out there. And I would say there's minimal options or solutions from that perspective that have kind of addressed that issue on the use, so there ends up being a lot of waste in the end. So tell us a little bit about how do you kind of align yourself with the warehouses, distribution centers to be able to, I guess, create awareness around this program. I'm sure, you know, attending work is one of those, but and then how does that relationship kind of develop where you're able to collect that waste from them?
So we have a team of about 20 reps that cover the country. And their job is to make appointments, seek out people. It's a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of investigation. It's going to conferences and making connections. It's networking just like any other business. But we're networking. We're trying to network with those folks that have the ability to make decisions and make changes in what they're doing with their waste, and being able to change that up some.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's great that you're pushing for that and trying to get in touch with this population, I guess, the warehouse population, and be able to tap into that resource essentially that would otherwise probably end up in a dumpster. I know I'm guilty of it personally. I've, you know, seen my operations throw out a lot of plastic wrap there, and, you know, certainly a huge impact on the environment. So maybe you can give us kind of some idea of how the warehousing industry has an impact on the environment, maybe from both from a negative and a positive perspective.
Well, I think with the warehouse industry, you know, it's either for Trex's perspective, it's either you recycle or you don't recycle your polyethylene film. And if, you know, for the positivity aspect of it, you know, if they are taking the time to separate their pallet wrap from their other recyclables and then doing that extra legwork of collecting, baling, and then storing that material, they're, you know, that's positively helping the environment, because once they, you know, reach a certain amount of bales ready for us to come pick up, you know, we schedule an appointment, take that material and bring it directly to our warehouse. And we use 100% of our stream. And, you know, that allows them to, you know, make sure that they're not putting it in the dumpster or landfilling the material. They have that good feeling in it. And it shows that their company or the warehouse is environmentally focused and friendly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answered your question, but there's, as if it's negative, the only way for Trex is if they're not partnered with us and they're putting it in the landfill, or, you know, they're bringing it to another company that doesn't necessarily
they don't know
they don't know
they don't know exactly where it's
Yeah.
They don't know the outlet that it's going to,
Right.
to know if it's being recycled or burned or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. I guess maybe from the impact side, I mean, give us an understanding of, you know, obviously we see the, you know, the plastic wrap especially is, you know, getting thrown out and we're using a lot of it. But I mean, give us an idea on average, like for an average distribution center, I mean, how much plastic waste are they generating? Like how much are you picking up at a time on average? And what does that kind of volume actually look like when it's all put together?
So I would say probably warehousing is probably going to generate, depending on the size, it's going to have to be an enormous warehouse. That's usually what we're targeting. But they're going to generate probably a truckload, a tractor trailer load of baled plastic film every month, maybe two. Some distribution centers in general that are feeding multiple stores and then collecting back from those stores could generate as many as 3 truckloads a month.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, it's a huge amount when you think about it, because I'm sure it's all like compacted together, which takes up a little space, and it's a lot to collect over time. So you mentioned there, if they're collecting back from the store, so how does that kind of program work? Because I think that kind of goes even further into making the supply chain more sustainable, where you're looking at those different points within the supply chain and collecting back from, like you said, in this case, the store. So tell us how how do you set up a program like that, and how are you able to make that happen?
Yeah, so for stores, we have about 32,000 partnered grocery stores throughout the country. And each grocery store, like individual storefront, has a collection bin in the front of their store. And so it's pretty much like a reverse logistics. So when their trailer comes to drop off their food for that grocery store, they empty that and fill it with the recyclables. And then that trailer takes all that recyclable material back to their distribution center. That distribution center then bales it and stores it. So that DC could cover a radius, 100-mile radius of that one grocery store. So that's how they can create a lot more volume. And then we pick up directly from that DC. So if you go onto our website, nextrex.com, you can see all of the U.S. drop-off locations. You look under your state and you could see these grocery stores that are partnered with us, and we get all their film from that distribution center.
I do have one edit on that. So it's probably not the exact same tractor trailer that the groceries come in on. We don't want people to think that trash and food are going in the same trailer. So, but it is their internal reverse logistics. So we're just making sure that we're getting that collected back from the grocery stores, back to their distribution centers.
Interesting. So the distribution center itself is serving as kind of a collection point overall, and then is the
consolidation point,
consolidation point, and then is the store then taking the action to return, or the distribution center is kind of going out with another truck and making some pickups in that sense? I'm curious, like, how does the company go about setting up like a good program to make sure that all of this is happening?
So their internal logistics are probably already set up. They're probably already doing cardboard or something else. So it would just be adding another recyclable onto or back to the distribution centers. And then Trex doesn't take possession of it until it's all baled and ready to go. And then we have a trucking company that picks up from the distribution centers. Gotcha.
Interesting. And then it comes to your plants and gets processed. So I'm curious because I'm curious about this because I'm in New Jersey, and New Jersey, from a store perspective, has banned plastic bags too as well, which I think you guys utilize too in the process. I mean, I guess from that perspective, I mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing, maybe, in a sense, because now it's not turning into recycled material, and you said you guys have a lot of demand?
Yeah, so the bag ban, that it's in a couple different states, and people get weary of, like, are we going to be able to participate in a recycling program like this? But that gives us the opportunity to educate, said account or said distribution center or said NexTrex account, which is working with municipalities or counties, to educate them on there are other types of polyethylene film that are out. Instead of grocery bags, you do have your bread bags, cereal liners, Ziploc bags, case over wrap. There's so much other opportunity to capture that film. So that hasn't necessarily affected us. Yes, grocery bags are still polyethylene film, but we still can figure out a way to collect the other additional film out there.
Interesting. And I think I'm curious too. I mean, you mentioned that there's high demand for your product, which is rightfully so. Like I said, it's a great product. But I mean, do those kind of bans actually like drive the demand for you guys for plastic like higher as well, because now there's like less sources?
No, I don't necessarily think so, because when we bring we call it post-consumer bales, right? So post-consumer means that grocery mix, grocery bags, bread bags, cereal liners, etc. So when we bring those types of bales in, we have audits, monthly, weekly, that we audit, and those post-consumer bales, only 25% of that bale is grocery bags. So
interesting.
The other
I would say at least at 25% is, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So but then you have the other 75 that is the other additional material,
pallet wrap and things.
Gotcha. So would you say that I guess the biggest source of this plastic for you is from the warehousing industry, this all the wrap?
Yep, definitely.
Oh wow, interesting, very interesting. So uh that's interesting. I would have thought that it was like the other way around, but I guess that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially when you say you're pulling, 2, maybe 3 truckloads out of some DCs a month. I mean, that's a substantial amount. Talk us through if a distribution center or a company wants to be a part of this program, and how do they kind of start to make that happen? What do they need? Any equipment to do this type of thing? How does that work, and how do they get started with the program?
So we have different ways of collecting it. We have a commercial segment, and then we have our grocery stores that are partnered with us already. And then what I do specifically is the NexTrex grassroots movement, where I work with unique entities like municipalities, counties, small businesses that are looking to create their own outlet for plastic film recycling. Because at times, we want to take some of that pressure off of the grocery stores. I mean, they're grocery stores, they're not recyclers, so we don't want to overwhelm them too much. So the other outlets working with, counties and municipalities to give those residents and community, an avenue to drop off their film. So for me specifically, what they do need is they need to collect the film and then have a warehouse space, whether that's at their transfer station or convenience site, to operate a baler and store those bales until they reach a certain minimum for us to come pick up.
And a dock.
And a doctor, yeah, and a forklift.
Yeah.
So those are the main things. So baler and storage for them to really facilitate a program. And it's really nice to see these counties really working with their community. And if they don't have a baler, does Trex need to help them with that? So we have a baler financing program where we could purchase the baler for them. And instead of us rebating them for the film, it goes towards the payoff of the baler. So that's an option for them. Or do they need a storage container? Do we need to purchase them a 40-foot long storage ship, like one of those shipping containers you see overseas, a Connex box? So there are obstacles throughout the program, but we try and alleviate them by offering them these options like the baler or the storage container. And then that helps them really, have a program that is going to be successful for them and their community.
And specifically for warehousing, though, it's, they're going to need a baler, and they're going to need a doctor and a forklift and a couple people to take care of things. That's storage. Yeah. And be able to store inside. So that's the biggest things they're going to need. And they can always check us out at nextrex.com. We have a commercial page there that talks all about the requirements, the baling requirements, and what would be required of them. And we're happy to connect them with buyers that would be interested in helping them set up a program.
Interesting. Yeah. And I love that you guys are assisting too in those cases if they need a baler or something of that nature to be able to make that happen. Because I think, oftentimes some companies, they think, sustainability costs more money, right? And there's more investment to do things more sustainable. So I love that you're helping to kind of alleviate some of those concerns, and almost, in a sense, if you're doing that baler financing program, it sounds like it's kind of paying for itself to happen, right? And I think then you just have that positive impact from an operations perspective, and then also a positive impact from an overall supply chain and company impact as well, which I think is super important. And it's really interesting how you've kind of captured this market, and I'm sure there's still a lot more warehouses out there that you need to capture as well. So hopefully there's some listening that want to jump on the program and be able to send you their plastic, and then maybe put their Trex decking on their house too at the end of the day.
Yes,
when they get
both
home,
of
right?
those things. We love both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So and that's the full circle that you're going for, right? I mean, that's the kind of circular loop there. So very interesting stuff with you both here, and I think the program is just outstanding. I think it's such a great initiative to be able to do something with that plastic wrap. I know that in my career, in my experience, that's one thing that always kind of stood out to me as like a huge waste. It's just so much plastic wrap because you're picking product from this end of the warehouse, and just to move it to the other side, you got to wrap it so it doesn't fall over. And then that wrap is used for maybe 10 minutes and it's trash right after that because you can't necessarily reuse it. So it's great that you found a stream for that to be able to happen and for that to be able to turn into something that's good and can be used again. So as we wrap up here, I mean, what do you see as kind of the future of this program, and how are you going to continue to evolve it over the years to keep tackling this problem?
I think for my specific program, the NexTrex Grassroots, which work with the municipalities and counties, it's just continuous education. I think that's the biggest thing, is to educate these types of accounts that we have an outlet for them. We have a program. We're willing to help. And then also word of mouth. I think what's really helped me throughout because this NexTrex Grassroots has only been really here for about 3 years. It's a new program for us. But it's word of mouth, is seeing, oh, that municipality, that county is doing it and they're being really successful. And even though we might be smaller or bigger, we can, get into it as well. So I think that is a way for me specifically to grow, is, word of mouth and the education piece, and the PR and the marketing is also going to help give that outreach and education aspect as well.
And I think growth for the warehousing is just contact us. We're happy to help. We're happy to at least help you investigate and see if we're a good solution for you in your waste streams and being able to get the plastic out and get it recycled. We're just always looking to grow. So, and we can we're pretty creative in ways to remove obstacles and figure out how we can help people to meet their goals.
All right. Awesome. And it's great to hear that. And hopefully we can create some awareness around this program too here on the podcast. And if people are listening and they want to get involved in the program, they want to bring their warehouse on board, what's the best way to do that?
Go to nextrex.com and check us out there, or you can send us an email at recycle@trex.com.
All right, fantastic. And we'll put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com so people can easily find it. So Kellie and Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about this topic.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.